The wind howled through the desolate streets of Redwood Falls, a small town nestled deep within the woods. It was a place where secrets festered in the shadows and whispered legends held power over the minds of the townsfolk. Among these legends was the tale of the Devil's Crossroads, a place where desperate souls made deals with an otherworldly entity in exchange for their heart's darkest desire. In the heart of Redwood Falls, inside a ramshackle house, lived Thomas Cole. His life had taken a tragic turn when his daughter, Emily, was diagnosed with a rare, incurable disease. The doctors had given her only a few months to live, and Thomas couldn't bear the thought of losing his precious child. Desperation gnawed at his soul, driving him to the edge of sanity. One moonless night, as the clock struck midnight, Thomas stumbled upon an old journal in his attic, passed down through generations. It spoke of the Devil's Crossroads, a place where one could make a pact with an entity known as Malachi to save a loved one. The price was steep, it warned, but for Thomas, it was a risk he was willing to take. With trembling hands, he gathered his meager savings, lit a lantern, and ventured into the forest, guided only by the cryptic directions in the journal. After hours of wandering through the eerie woods, Thomas stumbled upon a clearing where an old, gnarled tree stood. At its base was a crude pentagram drawn in chalk, and in the center lay a faded, leather-bound book. This was the Devil's Crossroads. As Thomas opened the book, a chill crept through the forest, and the temperature plummeted. He followed the instructions meticulously, reciting the incantations in a voice that wavered with fear. Suddenly, the air seemed to shimmer, and a figure materialized before him. It was Malachi, a being cloaked in shadows with eyes that burned like coals. His voice was a soft, sinister hiss that echoed in Thomas's mind. "You seek to make a pact, mortal," Malachi whispered. "What is it that you desire?" Tears welled up in Thomas's eyes as he spoke of his dying daughter. "I want Emily to live," he choked out. "Please, save her." Malachi's laughter sent shivers down Thomas's spine. "A noble request, but every gift comes at a price. I will save your daughter, but in return, I will claim a part of your soul. You will be forever marked by this pact, and one day, I will return to collect." Thomas hesitated, his heart torn between his love for his daughter and the dread of the unknown. In the end, his desperation overcame his fear, and he agreed to the Devil's terms. The deal was sealed with a blood-red signature etched in the ancient book. The next morning, Thomas returned home, trembling with a mixture of relief and foreboding. He found Emily's condition miraculously improved. She was no longer bedridden, and her laughter filled their once somber house. It seemed that Malachi had indeed fulfilled his end of the bargain. Weeks turned into months, and Emily's health continued to improve. The townsfolk marveled at the miraculous recovery, but Thomas knew that this newfound lease on life came at a terrible cost. One evening, as he watched Emily playing in the garden, he received a chilling message. A letter, written in elegant, dark ink, appeared on the kitchen table. It was from Malachi, a reminder that their pact would not be forgotten. The weight of his decision pressed down on him, but he couldn't bear to tell Emily the truth. Years passed, and Redwood Falls flourished under the shadow of the old tree at the Devil's Crossroads. Emily grew into a vibrant young woman, and life seemed almost normal. Yet, Thomas lived in constant fear, knowing that the day of reckoning would come. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily fell gravely ill again. The disease had returned with a vengeance, and Thomas's heart sank. He knew that this was the price he had to pay. As he held his daughter in his arms, he wept, feeling the cold, suffocating presence of Malachi drawing near. That night, as Emily's life hung in the balance, Malachi appeared in Thomas's room, his eyes burning with a malevolent fire. "The time has come, mortal," he hissed. "Our pact must be fulfilled." Thomas pleaded for more time, but Malachi was relentless. He reached out with shadowy fingers, extracting a piece of Thomas's soul. The pain was excruciating, but Thomas endured it, knowing that it was the only way to save his daughter. As the ritual ended, Emily's fever broke, and she began to recover once more. But Thomas was forever changed. His once vibrant spirit had been tarnished, and the weight of the pact hung heavily on his shoulders. Years passed, and Emily grew into a woman of great beauty and kindness. She had no knowledge of the dark pact her father had made to save her life. Thomas had kept the secret buried deep within his soul, hoping to protect her from the horrors of the devil's deal. But Malachi's influence grew stronger with each passing day. Shadows seemed to cling to Thomas, and his once kind eyes now held a haunted, malevolent glint. He could feel the demon's presence, a constant reminder of the terrible cost of his actions. One stormy night, as lightning streaked across the sky and thunder roared like a beast, Malachi appeared before Thomas. "It is time, mortal," he hissed. "The final payment is due." Thomas knew that he could no longer evade the devil's grasp. He had to confront his fate head-on. With grim determination, he agreed to meet Malachi at the Devil's Crossroads. As Thomas stood at the Devil's Crossroads once more, the ancient tree seemed to groan in sympathy. Malachi materialized, his shadowy form more imposing than ever. "Your time has come, mortal," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Your daughter's life was saved, but your soul is mine." Thomas nodded, his heart heavy with regret. "I accept my fate, but please, spare Emily. She's innocent in all of this." Malachi grinned, a cruel twist of his shadowy lips. "Ah, but innocence matters little to me. I will take what is mine." Suddenly, a voice rang out from the darkness, a voice filled with power and righteousness. It was Emily, standing fearlessly between her father and Malachi. She had overheard their conversation and had come to protect the man who had sacrificed everything for her. Malachi, taken aback by Emily's courage, hesitated. He could sense a purity in her spirit that repelled his malevolence. With a final, scornful look at Thomas, he vanished into the shadows, leaving only the faint echoes of his laughter behind. Thomas fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the enormity of his daughter's love and sacrifice. Emily helped him to his feet, tears in her eyes. "You saved me, Dad," she whispered. "Now it's my turn to save you." Together, they embarked on a quest to break the cursed pact with Malachi. Armed with ancient texts and the knowledge of those who had faced the devil before, they sought a way to free Thomas from his dreadful fate. Their journey led them to forgotten rituals, mystical artifacts, and encounters with powerful beings of light and darkness. As they delved deeper into the supernatural, they uncovered the secrets of the Devil's Crossroads and the true nature of the entity they had made a pact with. The culmination of their quest brought them back to the Devil's Crossroads. Armed with the knowledge they had gained, Emily and Thomas faced Malachi once more. Malachi, sensing their resolve, appeared with a sinister grin. "You cannot escape your fate," he hissed. "Your souls are bound to me." But Emily and Thomas were now alone. They were joined by the spirits of those who had made pacts with Malachi in the past, souls who had endured torment and suffering. Together, they chanted ancient incantations, forming a barrier of light that surrounded the demon. Malachi screamed in agony as the light engulfed him, his form writhing and contorting. With a final burst of light, he was banished from the mortal realm, and his influence shattered. The Devil's Crossroads stood silent and empty, its dark power vanquished. Emily and Thomas had broken the cursed pact and freed themselves from Malachi's grasp. As they returned home, their lives slowly began to return to normal. Emily's health remained stable, and Thomas found solace in knowing that his daughter was safe. However, the scars of their ordeal ran deep, a constant reminder of the price they had paid for their actions. The town of Redwood Falls continued to thrive, but the legend of the Devil's Crossroads remained etched in its history. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the night when a father had risked everything to save his daughter, and a daughter had faced the devil himself to protect her father. The story of Thomas and Emily's struggle against the darkness had left an indelible mark on Redwood Falls, a testament to the enduring power of love and sacrifice. But the shadows of their past still lingered, and the future remained uncertain. Only time would reveal the true consequences of the devil's deal. Despite their valiant efforts to break the pact with Malachi, the devil's influence was far more insidious and tenacious than they could have ever imagined. The entity may have been banished from the mortal realm temporarily, but it had not been defeated. In the following weeks, strange occurrences began to unfold in Redwood Falls. Dark, malevolent shadows crept into the town, moving with purpose and determination. They whispered vile temptations and sowed discord among the townsfolk. As chaos and despair spread, it became clear that Malachi's grip on the town was stronger than ever. Thomas and Emily, now aware of the horrifying truth, were consumed by guilt and regret. Their attempts to save each other had inadvertently unleashed a far greater evil upon their once peaceful town. Desperation led them back to the Devil's Crossroads, where they confronted Malachi one last time. The entity, now more powerful and menacing than ever, reveled in their misery. "You sought to break our pact," Malachi hissed, "but you were foolish to think you could escape my grasp. Your souls are mine, forever." In a chilling display of power, Malachi emerged with the shadows, becoming an all-encompassing darkness that swallowed Thomas and Emily whole. Their screams echoed through the forest as they were consumed by the malevolent force, their bodies vanishing into the abyss. Redwood Falls, once a haven of peace and serenity, was forever changed. Under Malachi's dominion, the town became a nightmarish realm of perpetual darkness. The townsfolk were subjected to unspeakable horrors, tormented by the sinister shadows that now ruled their lives. Thomas and Emily, trapped within Malachi's ever-expanding realm, endured an eternity of suffering. Their souls were entangled in a web of agony, unable to find solace or escape. They had paid the ultimate price for their desperate pact, and there was no redemption in sight. As for Malachi, he reveled in the misery he had wrought. His influence spread like a cancer, infecting neighboring towns and cities, leaving a trail of darkness in his wake. The legend of the Devil's Crossroads became a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the consequences of striking a deal with the devil. And so, the once thriving town of Redwood Falls fell into eternal despair, forever imprisoned in the clutches of Malachi and his malevolent shadows. The perfect and horrible ending served as a grim testament to the unyielding power of evil and the high cost of making deals with the devil.
icon, man. Damn, a girl about a 10. I should fuck her in the Benz.